Hey everyone, welcome back to Disenfranchised, episode number 5. And it's been a week. It has been a very disappointing, very disheartening week. I don't know if anybody was able to check out the stream I did last night with Dane from Actual Fandom, but we went really in depth there. And I was originally planning on sort of opening up the stream with some sort of long-winded political speech, and there's going to be some short-winded political speech, no doubt about it. Because for anybody who watched the stream, there were technical issues for a good. Oh, hey, Crazy Joe, good to see you, man. Yeah, there were some technical issues when I was first there, and unfortunately, there was a lot of points that. By the way, Crazy Joe, man, he's got a cool stream, cool channel. If you guys haven't seen it, concession stand. I think he has another travel based one too. But I was going to say, yeah. So it's been a disappointing week, and I really kind of went into a lot of my bigger sort of I guess you could say grievances, I think like a lot of people, I have a picture I wanted to show you, but I didn't know how to send it to you. That's how would I should not be so hard to reach. I'm on Discord. If you wanna I'm also on if you want to send me a follow on X, Twitter, or whatever. I am on there just for like DMs and stuff. So if you want to send it to me that way, although I would prefer Discord now that I think about it. Anyways, so um, I guess without getting too fucking deep into it, because I don't want to make this show like all like fucking too heavy on what happened this week on the political thing on the political side of things. I am clearly disappointed in America. That is the biggest thing. I'm a lot less angry than I am like, I can't believe that as a country we fell for this shit again. I think that's my biggest sort of yeah, that's the biggest feeling that I'm left with. And I think it sucks because as you guys can tell, I was planning on totally walking away from covering politics if Kamala won. I was sure she was going to win. I was so sure that I dedicated October to relaunching my channel to dedicate it solely to covering independent movies, art house movies, and foreign films and all that shit. And I'm still going to do that. Okay? I'm still going to do that because I wanna tell you guys a cool story. Because while this week has been shitty on the political side of things, this has been a fantastic for a week for me on a professional basis. Um, but you know what? Maybe I'll save that story for another day because I don't want to get too off topic here. But what I'm saying is this, man. Life goes on, you know, and the future looks bleak, no doubt about it. But we can't just like cower in fear. We can't just sit back and let this shit control us. We got to take this anger. We got to take this fear. We got to turn it into positive action. But we can't do that without taking care of yourself a little bit first. If you can't, what's that metaphor? You got to put your oxygen mask on first before you put your kids' oxygen mask first. First. Hey, what's up, Dio Brando? How you doing, bro? So it is important to in times like these to take care of yourself, to take care of your mental health, and also like to reach out. I think it's important now more than ever to understand the world and to confuse how you lads could have voted that way. Hey, I didn't, dude. I did not. That Trump never had my vote. Not since 2015, man. I am disappointed for a lot of reasons. Again, if you guys want to check out my stream that I did with Dane from Actual Fandom last night, we definitely talked about it. The first like 20 minutes or so has some technical issues, but after that, it went pretty smoothly. What was I gonna say? Yeah, we got to take care of. We got to take care. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing, man? I literally just finished Look Back. I don't know what Look Back is. Is that a TV show or what was I gonna say? Yeah. So, yeah, you got to take care of your mental health, right? You got to take care of yourself, and then once you're good, then you could start being more productive. Then you can start doing some more positive action. But you gotta, oh, okay, dude, like it's like next. I need to start. I have been one thing that I'm sort of really ashamed of is that I've been like very like ignorantly like uh refusing to watch anime, and I need to change that, dude, because I've been watching a lot of Miyazaki stuff, and this is it's like, if nothing else, the movies are visually stunning. But back to the main topic at hand here, and that's self-care. All right, we're gonna talk about comfort watches and sort of movies that I personally like to go to sort of get that sort of warm uh sense of comfort when, whenever whether good times or bad times, whenever I just kind of need to feel a little bit like cozy or something. These are the movies that I turn to. All right, and that's what we're gonna. I was originally gonna do movies that everybody loves that I hate, but I was like, man, there's gonna be so much negativity this week that I'm gonna be feeling, that's gonna be out there, and I think we're all gonna be a little bit sick and tired of, myself personally. Okay, so I want to take this moment, turn all this fucking negative fucking shit that's going on, and let's just kind of go in the opposite direction here. Let's talk about fucking stuff that we watch to sort of um deal with times like these, and anybody in the chat, please feel free to mention movies that you like to go to for a little bit of comfort and a little bit of familiarity. But before I get to some actual movies here, I want to give a shout out to a couple of games that I personally like to turn to for a little bit of just sort of like turn your mind off and indulge a little bit in some sort of like comfortable shit. And first of all, number one for me, this is Gran Turismo 7. I've been loving this game. I've been playing it for like the past 3 weeks. A little bit each day. It's a racing game. The great thing about racing games is you can play them for like 10 minutes or you can play them for several hours and you're still going to get the same quality of experience. But I especially since I got the PS5 with the fucking 3D audio and the dual sense, like racing games have like completely, I've never been to I've dabbled in racing before. But it wasn't until this generation that I really got into them. And they're just such a great way to like just blow some steam off, like especially if you commute a lot and you're stuck in traffic, like indulging in a fantasy where you could just kind of go as fast as you want through all this fucking shit. Like it's just a really fun way to sort of like zone out a little bit. And I love Gran Turismo 7 because it's like the right mix of arcade and like realistic like handling in their vehicles, so that it takes skill. Like you got to know what you're doing. You got to pay attention to how you fucking control your car, but not so much that like the game is overly punishing for like a couple of mistakes here or there. It is the it is the Dark Souls of racing, but it's still pretty forgiving, all things for considered. But I also play Dirt, I also play WRC, and I also play Grid. But Gran Turismo 7 sort of been my go-to more lately than anything. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been really wanting to get myself like, or yeah, I don't know. We'll see how the economy goes, but I would love to get into sim racing someday. Because yeah, I don't know, man. I like going fast. Me go fast, me likey. Okay, so racing games. That's one thing that I personally like to turn to for comfort here. Let me get some water. All right, let's continue here. Something else, something else that I like to play for comfort is it's a little game that nobody liked, that everybody knows, as Baldur's Gate 3. Dude, fucking this game is like literally everything everyone says it is. And yeah, I don't want to fucking overhype it, but I don't know if I can, right? Because it's just such a celebrated game. But if it's like I miss the Need for Speed Underground series. Dude, there's so many things that I wish that Rockstar would bring back. I miss the bully games, you know. I wish they did more with the Max Payne series. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Red Dead and GTA as much as the next guy, but like I don't know, they used to do so much more, right? But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is it's it is probably like the quintessential RPG. And it's pretty much like any type of game that you want it to be, depending on how you play it. And um I don't know, like it's so weird, right? Like because I feel like there's this stereotype that everybody wants to play like the villain, everybody wants to play the bad guy, and my internet is there. It is. Yeah, I think there's like this sort of like stereotype that every gamer like wants to play the bad guy or the villain, fucking like role in an RPG and shit. And I've tried that, you know. I've definitely like it's amazing. You can disappear into that game for hours. It's an RPG done right. That is the best way to put it. It's an RPG done right. Like you really can role play as any type of character you want. And every little like way that every little choice you make matters in ways that don't in other games, you know, or it's like it kind of reminds me of like Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy, but like done well without that disappointing ass like final hour. Um, and I've only it's weird, like I've started so many games with so many different types of characters, including like so many times that I tried to play as the villain or the bad guy, but each and every time, like I gravitate towards just trying to help everyone. And like sometimes it bothers me because I feel like there's a whole part of this game that I'm missing because I can't commit to like being the villain. But I don't know, dude. Like I just it's weird. I don't feel like I have to force myself in a way that I'm being overly conscious about it, and that doesn't feel right. But I don't know. What I'm trying to say is Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that is very well written in the sense that like all the sort of character motivations, all the backgrounds, and a lot of the side quests, they all revolve around these familiar themes of control, of like of like religious like I guess like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like religious extremism. There's a lot of stuff about like working with people who are diametrically opposed and stuff. But because it's a video game, like there's a logic that is rewarding to play through that you can appeal to within these characters, and they're very complex and all that shit. So I think specifically in times like now where the odds seem so fucking overwhelming and things look so bleak, don't get me wrong, don't sit around playing video games all day. But if it helps you sort of indulge in this fantasy where you can totally be the fucking character that addresses these fucking issues head on in a way that isn't cheap, in a way that's actually going to demand you to put some more like thought and consideration to your actions and shit and rewards your creativity. Yeah, play this game. And dude, yeah, if you can play it on your PC, and if you can play like with all those mods too, shit, dude. Like I played on the PS5 and I love it. I can't imagine if I had access to all the fucking different sorts of mods and shit. But as it is, vanilla, like it's a pretty well balanced, well designed game. Um, and while there's a lot of things that would be convenient about it, like I don't know if I would trade much of it for like what we got. All right, guys. So now that we got some honorable mentions out of the way in terms of video games, let's talk about 9 movies and 1 TV shows that I like to turn to for comfort. And this is going to be again in no particular order. We're just gonna go through this list as the vibes fit here. And number 1 or number 10, however the hell you want to do this, and this is probably my most recent watch here. All right, and this is Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru. And I actually saw this for the first time on Sunday. Um, and it's interesting, right? Because I liked it. I liked it the first time that I watched it. Um, and I haven't seen it again, to be fair. But what felt when I first watched it, like a little overly sentimental and a little uneven, has sort of taken on a whole new meaning, a whole new meaning since the election night. Yeah, no, it is definitely an excellent movie. What this movie is about realizing that you let too much time slip by, and I think that's something that all of us are sort of, if not not literal time, but I think one thing that a lot of us on the left, and I think Democrats especially should, or if they're not, they should be waking up to. It's just the fact that we let a lot of shit slip. We let a lot of sort of stuff get past us that we should have been paying more attention to. And in some ways, how this movie sort of deals with that conflict with like realizing that shit, like this has already happened. I can't stop it. What can I do, before shit gets too bad? I think that sort of story in retrospect, like has impacted me a lot more. And I do need to watch this movie again, but like right, like it's so weird. Like ever since the election, like the first movie that I thought about was Ikiru, because yeah, like I I I love this movie because it's about like such a flawed fucking person, right? Somebody who you look at and you feel so much empathy towards, and you feel so much like you want to reach out to the dude, but you also totally understand how he got to where he is, you know? And like the movie is very emotionally honest while at the same time saying something that is very very universally relevant. It's something that we should all sort of kind of take to heart now, where this guy kind of realizes that there's no such thing as too late. Like you decide when it's too late. And you decide when there's nothing that you can do, and that decision is ultimately up to you, because what our main character here in Akiro does, um and what the sort of presentation of it is something that I had issues with, that I think might play different a second time around, because in retrospect this is a movie so much about legacy, um and that's something that's definitely been on my mind since Tuesday. Yeah, it just hits different, and it's a movie that I'm glad that I watched, because I feel like without knowing it, it sort of gave me a direction. It sort of gave me something to look towards, and that's like uh shit's not gonna be good, but that doesn't mean that I can't fucking do anything about it. And I do want to like reach out. I'm someone that likes to donate a lot to like mutual aid causes and food banks, and stuff like that, and different charities, and humanitarian causes. But usually that's where I stop, and I think that's something that I need to reconsider, and actively put myself out there to be a better active member of my community and better serve people, man. And I think that's something that I personally, this movie especially, I think helped me sort of uh, really commit to, because something that I've talked about doing for a while, but I need to just start doing it, and yeah, Ikiru is just about the value of that. It's about um, it's about absurdism to some extent, right? Like if nothing we do matters, and all that matters is what we do. And that's not going to be the first time probably that I touch on that idea during this countdown. So get ready for that. But I just really enjoy this story, and I think it's very beautifully directed. Akira Kurosawa is one of the legendary masters of film, and I think this is it's probably his most sentimental stuff that I've seen, and sort of seeing that grand directorial vision and style to tell this story, it was pretty special, you know. To something kind of really sentimental, um, and all that. We're gonna go kind of in the opposite direction here. I want to talk about Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans. And this is a movie directed by Werner Herzog, starring Exhibit, Nicolas Cage, God, who else? Sofia Vergara, I think. No. The chick from Ghost Rider. I don't know. Well, that's yeah, the scene where he's crying on the swing. Yeah, no, dude, that shot definitely fucking hit me like a fucking ton of bricks, man. No, Akira is a fucking amazing movie. But it's a very sincere movie. And on the surface, okay, here's the thing of Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans is an interesting movie, right? Because in certain lenses, some people might consider it one of those so bad it's good movies. But and at first, that's what I considered it, and that was the appeal for me, right? This sort of weird, absurd, what the fuck is this sort of movie? And it's to the point that like it was one of those movies that I would show to my friends over and over again. that I would hold screenings of in my back in my old townhouse and shit. And so like over time, I've actually come to see like the sincerity in this movie, or at least the more artistic grand, because this is a Werner Herzog movie, dude. This is a Werner Herzog like take on a direct to video like thriller or something, you know. And again, that's like what it is on the surface, but I tell you, man, if you see this movie enough times, you will see like a genuine fantastic use of like mise en scene and especially set design and costuming. Like this is a movie where the big fucking moments are so big that people forget all the subtle nuance moments, right? And let me give you guys a great example here, right? Because in this movie, Nicolas Cage plays a crooked cop, and he's a crooked cop who is sort of mixed up in the underworld of this sort of I think it's Haitian immigrant community of New Orleans, right? It's called Port au Call, New Orleans, and so he's amongst them, and he feels like a lot of sympathy towards the Haitian immigrants. And there's this amazing, and it's again, there's this really, if it weren't for all the fucking big goofy shit, like stuff like this would be considered like a highlight, right? Because there's a scene where he investigates, he uncovers a drug ring, and then he's going to where they're about to try to capture um the relatives of or whatever, right? Yeah, Fairuza Balk's in it too. There's a lot of like Val Kilmer's in it. Who else? There's a lot of like 90s like there's one dude, he kept saying, "Oh yeah," something like that. I forgot. There's another '90s actor who fucking totally steals the scene in this movie. But anyways, so there's this scene where he shows up, and the police is out there with their guns out, and SWAT is there, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! We're just here to capture like two guys. What the fuck are you guys doing?" Eva Mendes. That's who it is. There it is. Yeah, Eva Mendes. So so there's a scene where like Nicolas Cage's character shows up, and the police is out of full force. He's like, "What the fuck are we doing? We're just here to capture two guys." And he's like, "Well, we want to make sure that we capture these guys." And they clearly just want to like shoot a bunch of like the subtext is that they just want to like go full force because it's a black community. And he's like, "No, man, I got this." And what he does is he goes next door, and it's all like in one steady cam long take, right? He goes next door, knocks on the door. He goes next door, knocks on it, and says, "Hey, so there's criminals next door. Do you mind if I go through your backyard to go through their back door?" And she was like, "Yeah, of course." So he just walks in, quietly enters the back door of the house, and just like sneaks up on them right then and there. And again, like moments like that sort of speak to the actual sincere core of this movie, which is about the bizarre redemption and non-redemption of this crooked fucking cop. It also has like one of the funniest fucking introductions to the third act. There it is, Brad Dourif. That's who it is. Yeah. Yeah. That's I knew it was someone like that, but I there are Deus Ex Machinas. What the sort of the opening of the third act of this movie reminds me of like um a slightly less subtle like version of the ending of Dodgeball, the True Underdog story, or like literally at the end, there's a Deus Ex Machina, and it's like a rule they refer to or whatever that just comes out of nowhere and resolves the conflict. There is a moment like that in this movie, and I'm just gonna spoil it, but there's a moment like that in this movie, but it's literally like one of the characters like coming up to Nicolas Cage, who at this point is at his wits end. He's caused all these problems for himself, and then the sheriff just comes up to him and says, "Good news." It's one of the great. It's such a fucking bizarre turn, and then fucking where the movie takes Nicolas Cage's character from there, like his arc. It's so fucking weird, and it's so fucking well done. Yeah, Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans. And I'm sorry, my voice is super raspy today. I did I did date stream last night and like went straight to bed, so my voice is still maybe a little tired from that. But yeah, Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans is an endlessly entertaining movie, and it's an endlessly rewatchable movie, and it actually weirdly it weirdly pays off rewatching because it's one of those films that actually reveals itself the more that it like the more that you pay attention to it, you know. And each time that you watch it, it's such a fucking weird and goofy ride that you're gonna be entertained no matter what. So, if you're looking for a pick me up, Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans. I'm pretty sure it's streaming for free on YouTube. I promise you, you're gonna have the time of your life watching it. All right, guys. So, let's go from something real fucking goofy like to something a little more hard on its sleeve. All right, and that is Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes. This is from the guy who made One Cut of the Dead, and this I believe this is the movie he made after that, and he made, and it's weird, right? Because apparently this is just sort of his style. Like he likes to make movies that are like one take or presented in one take, right? And there is a semi sequel to this movie called River, um, and it's like an expansion on. Well, okay, let me try to explain Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes before I talk about River, right? Because obviously this is what we're talking about here. But let's just say Beyond the Infinite Minute slash River, whichever one of those two movies you want to watch first, make sure you watch the other one, right? But the basic idea of this movie is that the film itself is a time travel machine, right? This movie, the brilliance of especially this movie of the one take conceit, and the way that it handles that with the idea of time travel is it, it actually puts you as the audience in the passenger seat, and it's sort of like low key makes you an active participant just by witnessing the events, right? By you watching this movie, you are committing an act of time travel. That is the weirdest part about this movie. That sounds bizarre, and yes, I am a little high, but hear me out here, okay? Because essentially when this movie presents its logic to you, and because it presents its logic and expresses its like time travel logic purely within the world of itself, it's self-contained within its own world, all you're doing is going along for the ride because you're not like watching it from a distance. You are the active witness to this. You are a part of this journey because of the perspective of the camera and all this shit. It is one of those things that is subtly brilliant because it's done so seemingly effortlessly, right? It seems like a gimmick that this is a one take time travel sci-fi comedy, right? The one take aspect of it always seems like a big gimmick whenever someone says the whole movie is done like in one take, right? Because everybody knows it wasn't. You know, he edited some shit together, but like whatever. We'll go with the illusion. Um, but in this movie, the fact that it is one take is the whole point. It actually makes it a key, not just a key part of the experience, but it actually is the time machine. The one take aspect of it is what takes you along on this active trip through time that is both forward and backward. I'm not kidding here, guys. Like if you watch this movie, you will travel in time within the logic of this universe by watching it. And that's all I really think I need to. Also, it's like 72 minutes long. Like it goes by fast. It is not just, it's not just like Primer where it's just like a trippy idea. These are some very well realized characters, and it's a surprisingly sweet movie in the end, and it's a fun ass fucking time, dude. So, Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes, it's a good little 72-minute escape from reality and into a time travel machine. So yeah, make sure to check that movie out. Uh, so from Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes, let's see, let's go something to a little bit more on the heady side of things. All right, and that is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think I've said a lot of times that this is the first movie that I saw that really hold on. I feel like I should be like over here. Yeah, that's a better place. All right. This is the first movie that I saw that showed me that movies can be more than just a story, right? That it could be about these grand ideas and these grand things, but even bigger, you know, is I think part of the reasons why this movie spoke to me so much when I was like in seventh grade was because that was a very difficult time, for a lot of reasons for me back then. And watching movies like this that were about such grand philosophical, films with such grand philosophical ideas is something that sort of um, helped me remember that there's something bigger out there than like what I'm experiencing. And when I think back on, I think that's something that has fueled a lot of my interest in like history, in science, and a lot of stuff like that. It's just the fact that like by going through experience, like going through these sort of bigger ideas, whether it be through art or through like podcasts or whatever YouTube videos, like it helps me remember that like I might just be like putting in my 40 hours a week and just paying my bills and trying to get by and all that, but there's also all this other cool stuff out there, um that I get to experience and I get to witness and I get to learn about if I seek it. And I think 2001: A Space Odyssey takes that sort of curiosity and rewards it by not only presenting this grand philosophical sort of like, I guess you could say, tableau or whatever, this grand like scope that is about these grand ideas, but it is also a movie that grounds you very much within it, that manages to feel um down to earth and realistic and like you're there, but also feel like even in 2024, um like almost like alien like in its future, in the future that it depicts, right? Because it's such a positive and utopia like future that we did not get. But to see like to see to go from where we are now to something like this that not only is able to give you a little bit of like bigger ideas to think about, but that ultimately I think in the end speaks to something that is genuinely like optimistic and hopeful, and that does it in a way that isn't like cheap and that isn't like cloying or overly sentimental, but like done very well through Stanley Kubrick's like brilliant direction and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that it's good to remember that um people do like this shit and that this stuff does like speak to people, and that as long as like and I think it's important that people hold on to that part of them that wants to like um think about these bigger ideas and can and fearlessly sort of um optimistically look towards the future and stuff like that. And I think that's something that we're all gonna have to try to do. And thankfully there's movies like this out there to help us do that. And also, like, it's just one of the greatest movies of all time. It's so weird. Like, I watch it and I can like intellectually tell why people call it slow. But I think ever since I was like 18, I haven't felt like it was like a slow movie. I mean, sometimes more so than others, but never to the point that like it loses my interest. And I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this movie. This is probably one of the movies, one of the movies that I've rewatched the most in my lifetime, and up there with one of the other movies that I've rewatched the most in my life is The Lost World: Jurassic Park. Well, I've talked a lot about how Jurassic Park is a movie that I limit myself these days to how many times I watch it, because I grew up watching it so much that like I'm afraid of it losing its power. But I don't have a problem watching Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom a lot, or this movie, The Lost World: Jurassic Park, for similar reasons. They're not as good. They're not as deep, and they're not as like impactful. Um, they're just like, hold on. What I love about The Lost World Jurassic Park is that in a lot of ways, when it's at its best, it feels like Aliens to Jurassic Park's Alien, right? It feels like a more action oriented sequel to something that I was a little bit more on the horror side. I feel like it does a really good job of taking a lot of the world building of the first movie and expands it into like Site B, into the InGen sort of like infighting and stuff like that. The Lost World is a movie that I used to watch so much when I was a kid that I actually memorized all the lines. Like like I would watch it and just like speak along to like every line. And that's because like for all its flaws, this has the best dialogue in all the Jurassic Park movies, you know? Maybe Jurassic Park 1 has more like insightful and meaningful dialogue, but in terms of like just like like how's the word I say here, like just dialogue, good fucking fun shit to say, dialogue, like memorable, quotable lines. I think this has a beat when it comes to all the entire fucking franchise. Um, and there's just the best thing about this movie, right? Is that despite what and I know Spielberg says this is like his least favorite movie of his, because it's just like an empty fucking like series of action scenes. And it's like, well, I mean, he's not wrong. I wouldn't say go so far to say it's empty. I think that for at least the first two acts, um there is a lot of like more depth. There's more to under the surface than I think he wants to give it credit for. But Spielberg is a really good action director. And he directs the shit out of all the action scenes in this movie. And yeah, it is just a series of one fantastic action scene to the other without a whole lot of fat in between. And that's why like it's so endlessly rewatchable, right? So you have all these awesome fucking dinosaur action scenes. You have all these great quotable lines. And not just that, but like it takes place in the jungle where it's like dark and muddy and like visibly humid and stuff and also the score like this is one of my most I think it's one of John Williams' most underrated like scores because it's so primal sounding. It borders on like tribalistic sometimes and it's like super dramatic and this movie actually has its own unique themes and soundtracks separate from the original. So yeah, like don't get me wrong. Like The Lost World Jurassic Park is a very imperfect movie. I think it's I think unfortunately there is a sort of like meandering quality to the sort of central conflict that starts off very interesting. The hunters and the researchers forced to work together. It starts off pretty promising. But then it just kind of goes to shit, like towards the third act, especially. And speaking of the third act, to me, that's where it sort of falls flat the hardest. I really don't like the San Diego sequences. I was never a fan of it, but I always kind of suffered through it because it is such a short part of the movie. And I understand why it's there. Like the original plans of the ending would have probably felt a little bit sudden, but I think sort of the dramatic tonal shift was a little too much for the Lost World Jurassic Park. And I think one of the undeniable strengths that Fallen Kingdom has over the Lost World Jurassic Park is that it moves this really key conflict of the dinosaurs on the mainland to the entire second half of the movie. And so it actually is allowed to, well, okay, I don't want to get too much into that because ultimately where this movie fails is that it saves for its third act. And this movie was so dark and dramatic that making it feel like this cheesy Godzilla ripoff to the point that it even has like I think somebody shouting Godzilla in it, I don't know, it just felt abrupt, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense. And if you're only going to give that much time to it, you probably should just kind of treat it lightly anyways, because you're not going to be able to give it the gravitas that it needs. Um, it's a very flawed movie. It's a very imperfect movie, but it is a movie that I love. I'm still a 7-year-old Dino fan for those movies and can be straight garbage. I don't care, dude. 100%, right? Like that's how I feel about Fallen. Again, I talked about Fallen Kingdom a lot, but I love that. I love good dinosaur action. And if that is there in the Jurassic Park movie, you already got me like 50%, you know? All right, so let's see. Let's we already did that. Let's do a little bit of TV here because we're not gonna it's not gonna be the last time we talk about TV. All right. And I want to talk about the work of Nathan Fielder. I ever since Nathan for You, I have been just an absolute huge fan of this guy. Nathan for You, The Rehearsal, and The Curse have just been some of the best television that I've ever fucking seen. Not just in the fact that like it's like funny because like yeah, the comedy is fantastic, but the way that he is able to blur the line between fiction and reality, at least in The Rehearsal and in Nathan for You, um, has always been what sort of elevates his comedy from like just jackass level, like hidden camera sort of style stunts to something that genuinely says something, right? About like and I mean Nathan for You, I think can be seen in certain like lights as a sort of critique of capitalism, you know, to some extent. Holy shit, Senior Nerd. Have I ever seen Red Rose? No, I haven't actually. Good to see you, Senor Nerd. Um, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, Nathan for You first kind of like on some level can be seen as a critique of capitalism, but what it turns into, especially like in its I think you know there's two key episodes to sort of like highlight the evolution of the show, and that's the hero where he takes over some dude's life for uh like a week and changes it completely. And then there is the search for Finding Francis, which is the series finale, where he helps a dude um, get back in contact with his high school sweetheart that he abandoned like 60 years before that. And what I think Nathan for You transforms to is ultimately a show that is a commentary on, you know, the character of Nathan Fielder, the sort of like awkward person, and how that sort of is a reflection of who Nathan Fielder might be personally. And also like just this sort of reality that we all put on, right? And then there's The Rehearsal, which sort of takes that idea and sort of blows it up in this sort of great way where like the entire show begins with the idea that he's going to use his resources to allow people to rehearse difficult experiences to prepare them for the real thing, right? But what is so fucking awesome about this show is that it starts off that way and then it collapses. There's a short entry level film he did. I watched that is pretty level of film that he does pretty. Oh, dude, yeah, the stuff that he has on YouTube is like really fucking. If you talk about his YouTube channel, yeah, there's some really fucking awesome stuff on there. Um, but with The Rehearsal, what's so great about it is the way that like he like halfway through the show, he's like, this isn't working. The idea of trying to rehearse you know for life's like difficult moments is just awful. And then and then like what it turns into from there is just god damn like the final scene of of the Rehearsal season 1 is one of the most disturbing and sad and weird and uncomfortable um endings to a supposed comedy shows that I've ever seen. And all of this while god there's just so much fucking weird shit. Like I don't know if you guys have seen The Rehearsal, but as you can see, he eventually creates a fake family for himself so he can rehearse for when he does have a family. And when he does that, like it's just like this. The shit goes off the rails, man. It just becomes such a non-fiction fiction thing, and that's what's so great about the first two Nathan for You sort of projects, right? Is that it really is him like erasing the line between the fictional reality the fictional sort of um I guess you could say qualities of television, even reality television, and then the real world, and then just finding something in between to live in that is realer than real, you know, because it's just so like um I don't know, man. He blurs so many lines when it comes to like when it comes to like I guess you could even say like ethics, you know, but also just social acceptance. It's weird. He's willing to go there in a lot of ways. that can be pretty shocking. But I think what he ends up doing with that, it's just so I don't know, man. And I think the reason why I find and I'll talk about the curse in a minute, but I think the reason why these two shows especially are so important for me, why I consider them comfort shows, is because I think this show is about sort of the discomfort that we all feel, you know, existing in the world that operates the way that it does. And I think there are times where I want to try to give the curse another chance. I didn't like watching it week by week. I'll talk about the curse in a minute. But with Nathan for you and the rehearsal, like what I find so comforting about them is that I think Nathan does such a good job of whether he is or isn't that awkward and that uncomfortable with himself. I think he plays that character so well and with such vulnerability that it's hard not to relate to it, right? I think we've all felt times where we felt a little bit vulnerable, a little bit awkward, a little bit uncomfortable. I think a lot of people when they enter their careers at first definitely suffer from like imposter syndrome, feelings like that. And I think this show explores that feeling in a sort of much more broader context. And between these shows, what starts off feeling a little bit more like satire feels more like philosophy by the time that it's over, right? And that's what makes those two shows so good. And then you got the curse, which is just man. Okay, so you said that you had trouble watching it week by week, and I totally get it, dude, because like it's such a seemingly plotless show. Watching it week by week, it's like, okay, so it's about a reality TV show. Wait, so it's about a casino, and what's going on? And the only thing that connects it is this fucked up dynamic between the three characters on the poster. And dude, all I can say is that it is a little aimless, but I think like this is Nathan for You's writing and directorial debut, and man, I think he must have really learned something about humanity with all his previous works because the way that he draws, and also the apparently he wrote this post his divorce, and you can kind of tell watching it because it's about a very dysfunctional and fucked up couple, Emma Stone and Nathan Fielder. And there's a lot of scenes that just feel very raw and very honest. And yeah, what Benny Safdie and Nathan Fielder managed to do with this show, especially by like the end of it, dude. I can promise you, man. I can promise you, you won't believe it. I remember watching it for the first time, the final episode. It just literally like whoa, like after like the first like 5 minutes, I'm like, what is going on? Like what the fuck? And just like the whole time being like, no idea where this is going. Like I can't tell you like just how on the edge of my seat the ending of the curse had me. And then, goddamn, dude, the ending of it, like the final scene, is like, God, how do I even describe it? It's the cameraman who drove the woman home drunk felt very realistic, dude. His character, yeah, his character is so fucking sad, and yeah, again, I recommend watching it because trust me, even though it's a little bit all over the place, seemingly, there is a method to the madness, and by the time you kind of realize the whole picture, dude, it is such a fucking wild ride. And again, I on top of all the stuff that I said, on top of all this like artsy fartsy philosophical crap that I just said, all his shit's funny. He's a funny fucking guy. And he's and he's really like clever and he works with good writers and good directors. Nathan Fielder, check out like all his works if you just kind of need some of the best comedy fucking out there, you know. But from brilliantly ironic to something a little bit more nostalgic. I want to talk about The Lion King, you know. And I've talked about this movie, I think a lot. I think I've talked about how it's like one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Um, and that's still true. But yeah, like this is just a movie that I love to go to, just because of the sort of nostalgia of it all. But again, like the music is incredible. Not just like the sort of like big musical acts, but like Hans Zimmer's score. Like sometimes like his shit just like pops into my head, you know. And I don't know, man. Like I think right now, I think it's easy to want to give into that Hakuna Matata life. It's easy to just be like, the world's turned its back on us. We need to turn our back on the world. But yeah, I think right now it's more important for us to meet the moment, to understand there's going to be hardships, and try to be a little bit braver, and face the fact that if we're gonna get through this, it's gonna be because we all help each other out. And I definitely mutual aid, guys. That's something that I'm definitely going to be looking into a lot more moving forward. Again, I don't want to go too much on a movie that I've probably spent a shit ton of my time on this channel, like celebrating. But as you guys know, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. Of course, it's something that's like going to be a comfort watch for me. Even I can't fucking deny the Disney pull. But from you know, something a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit just straight up goofy here. It's probably what is probably my all-time favorite comedy at this point, and that's Joe Dirt. Life's a garden. Dig it. Yeah. I love like the early, let's just say the first generation and a half of the Happy Madison machine, right? From Happy Gilmore, I say up to Click. I was a pretty regular watcher and supporter of Adam Sandler and his homies fucking movies. But of all the stuff that they made, and the comedy that I've probably gone back to the most in my life, it's definitely gonna be Joe Dirt. Look, it's juvenile, it's dumb comedy. But I think it's the sort of like dumb comedy that I grew up with because it was the SNL that I grew up. It was SNL and SNL and fucking what is it? Yeah, Adam Sandler stuff, all his movies and that sort of style. That was what I grew up with, and I just yeah, do know Joe Dirt. Seriously, I got the poo on me. I fucking love that line when he's just fucking with the bomb and shit. Okay, anyways, Joe Dirt is just like I love the goofy fucking comedy of it. I love the juvenile stupid jokes on it, and I love the bits. Like this movie has some fantastic bits with like the fireworks bit, the home's where you make it. You like to see homos naked? Ah, home's where you make it. Everybody know that, boy. No, dude. Yeah, like all there's so many fucking great like scenes and just memorable fucking lines to me. And um on top of all that, like David Spade actually gives a pretty good performance, relatively speaking. I mean, he's not gonna win an Oscar or nothing, but I think he does a really good job of playing Joe Dirt. Um and yeah, just being this sincerely um goofy guy, but who is comfortable in his own skin, and kind of takes all the shit the world throws at him, sometimes literally. And literally, makes the best out of it. And it's hard not to root for the guy. I watched The Longest Yard for the first time the other day, and it's the first movie I've turned off for a while. I liked like Longest Yard, but I saw that when I was like 15. But of all the movies that I rewatched from the Sandler universe, from the Happy Madison machine, this is the one that's probably has like the most like view counts and stuff. And it's the only one that I actually own on Blu-ray. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's ultimately a funny fucking movie. It's like a demented, like fucking raunchy take on Forrest Gump, but I think it actually earns its sentimentality more. I really like. I just I really love the way that this on top, like while it's making you laugh and all this shit, you don't notice that it's actually oh dude, hell yeah. Emperor's New Groove is like underrated Disney in my opinion. But what was I saying? Yeah, like it's making you laugh and all this shit with some genuinely great comedy. But then what you don't notice is that you're slowly like liking him more and more, feeling more sympathetic towards him. And then by the end, yeah, like you really are rooting for Joe Dirt. And I think the film has a very fucking awesome ending. Yeah, Joe Dirt, dude, fantastic. I'm gonna be rewatching that today probably once I come back somewhere. or come back from watching Anora. But yeah, Joe Dirt, one of my all time favorite comedy, easily. We're winding down here. We only have 3 more picks to go. Let me make sure here. I already did that. Yeah, I got 3 more to go here. So speaking of 3, let's talk about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I'm gonna a little controversial take here because last year I did take the time to watch the extended cuts when I got the 4K discs for the first time, and as somebody who couldn't get through the books, primarily because of Tom fucking Bombadil, um, it really didn't offer a whole lot to me. And I'm sure if you love the world of Tolkien and you know the books really well, the extended cuts are far superior. More power to you. But after actually sitting through them, I gotta say, from now on, I'm committed to the theatrical versions because they just function better as movies. It's an yeah, yeah. It at least it finally hit my area this weekend. I'm gonna be watching it later tonight. Um, but oh yeah, expect a review. What was I gonna say? So yeah, dude. It's this great big giant tale of good versus evil with all these amazing characters in it, and the the sort of great big scope of it all. You know, I think especially right now, the sort of grand metaphor of Sauron, the all-seeing eye, and the orcs and all this shit. You know, I think that feels very comparable to how I think a lot of us are feeling. You know, I think there is now like a very obvious Anora, Sauron and Saruman that we're all sort of like looking in the eye right now. And like I said, man, we need to fucking form fellowships. We need to like come together and support each other. That's the only way forward, and that's what these movies are about, dude. These movies are about how nobody can fucking take this kind of shit down on their own, but if have way more action and less of the have we and the books. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. No, there's a lot of changes that were made obviously for the theatrical cut and even for the extended. But as somebody who was never read the books, yeah, the theatrical is where it's at, you know. And god damn. Anyways, um, what was it saying? Uh, so um with this movie or with the series of movies and all that, like I really feel like J.R.R. Tolkien was sort of really talking about something that was really deep and important to him in terms of his experiences in World War I and World War II, and seeing all the sort of like true darkness coming out and being a real fucking genocidal problem. I'm not saying that we're there. I'm not saying that we're definitely gonna be there. I'm just saying that all cards are on the table, guys. And again, we shouldn't just be sitting around all day watching movies and playing games. But um, it's good to sort of experience something like this, something that is at this scope, done with this sort of love and this care, that are about these themes in times like this. Because you know what, it is a reflection of how things actually worked. If history has shown us anything, is that as long as people, the everyday people, try to like look out for each other, um, things work out somehow in the end, even if shit goes hard. Who knows how things are gonna go, guys? I don't want to fucking get all fucking dramatic here, but yeah. If you need something that's a little bit kind of more on the lighter side of things, a little bit more optimistic and a little bit more hopeful, and also just fucking epic and badass with some fucking amazing action sequences, yeah, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is where it's at. Personally, I see the theatrical, but for a lot of people, I understand if you would like the extended cuts. Now, from something to escape into because of the sort of optimistic that it provides to something that boldly stares the fucking horrible, depressing sort of state of things right in the fucking eye and dares to comment on it personally. I want to talk about my all-time favorite TV show, and that is The Leftovers. Now, The Leftovers is my all-time favorite show because it's basically the honest portrayal of a world that has lost its fucking mind. For those who don't know, this is a show that is essentially um it's called The Leftovers because Leftovers is amazing. Yeah, no, you get it, dude. You absolutely get it. No, seriously, my all-time favorite TV show. And for those who don't know, this show follows after a random mysterious event where 2% of the Earth's population disappears at random with no rhyme or reason. The show follows the 98% that were left over, the leftovers. Um, and the way that it sort of treats the event, in the book, from what I understand it, I have it, but I haven't read it yet. It's very much a response to like 9/11 and how the nation as a whole dealt with that sort of trauma. But in this TV show, they sort of take that idea and expand on it on a much more grander scale, especially as the show goes on. The first season is easily like the hardest one to get through for most people because it's kind of like the most meandering. But I think after episode 5, it sort of finds its groove, in my opinion. But with season 2 and especially season 3, yeah, the show manages to be this very brutally honest portrayal of depression, of I don't know, of just sort of like the inability to cope with being able to understand the state of the world, of trying to believe that there's still something that is worth believing in, even though every fucking step of the way the world keeps telling you no, there's nothing left, I think um I think the world that the show presents is one that, unfortunately, without knowing it, because this show came out in 2014, is a direct reflection of the post COVID world. Because I think there is this sort of vibe that's in the zeitgeist now that didn't exist before COVID, where people just seem kind of lost and a little bit confused, and the world just kind of seems resigned to um not the best place, and I think the way that this show portrays that is very honest, but not in the way that's like overly fucking nihilistic. It definitely gets dark. Don't get me wrong. It goes there. It definitely goes there in a lot of fucking episodes. But I think also it's a more honest portrayal of how that can bring out the worst in us, whether it be in our actions or in our mental health or anything like that. The way that we react to times like this really defines who we are. And what I love about this show is that it's about people who underestimate their own goodness. It's about people who underestimate their own ability to matter, uh, to each other, to something bigger than that, and the inability to see the things in yourself that others see, the good things in yourself that other people see. And I think that's something that's going to be really important to remember, moving forward, man. We're going to have to like try to look for the good in things. And what I love about this show is that it's Carrie Coon's character Nora is maybe the most heartbreaking character ever portrayed on TV. Man, you know it, dude. And then especially like the way that the character uses her show in its final moments is I mean, it's the reason why so many people, I mean, let's be real here. This is a show that like I always recommend to people, and every single person who was taking my recommendation has come back, and I tell you it's a 100% hit rate. They all say it's the greatest show they've ever seen, or if not one of the greatest shows they've ever seen. And trust me, it is honestly one of the most profound and moving experiences in television, up there with maybe Mr. Robot. By the time the show is all over, it's 28 episodes, and by the time it's all over, again, it's one of those shows where like the way that it starts, you can never predict where it goes by the time it's all said and done. But by the time that it's over, you kind of look back and you understand that like this is what it was about all along. And when you understand what the show is trying to get at, it's so, and you guys know me. I'm a fucking cornball. Okay. If it's something that is sincere and optimistic in a genuine and earned way, you got me. You absolutely got me. And that's what this show does. Like it really manages to express something that is fundamental to all of us, but that we can easily forget sometimes because we get caught up in a lot of a lot of the hard times. A lot of the hard times that we go through. And this show is about surviving that because that's what we do. We survive stuff like this. We move on from times like these one way or another, and that's the future we're gonna have to fucking get ready for.